Alright, so I went back and I picked out 12 games from 2021. These, much like my 2024 video, these are all open games. Most of them are decisive, not ties, but there is at least one exception. I generally organize them of these 12 games from my least favorite to favorite. Ideally, they'll get better as we go, but your mileage will likely differ from my own. Is there anything else to say? These were games I liked. They're games. It's not exactly the same as the best games, right? The best games are often ones where both players kept everything under control. But these are games where players did creative, different stuff that really worked. They really handled it well. And so most games good players play will be under control, outplaying their opponent, and not needing to do the flashy things. But some games, they do the flashy things and they do them beautifully, and we're going to be celebrating those games. So here we have corner in three, makes sense as a starter, right? Recapturable by 9955 and creates a challenge for the opponent. Akiyama goes in 5, setting up a same in 2, as well as a plus in 6. 4A78 is super well set up here. Deli, well, he has 9955, which is pretty good in 2 and very good in 6. So he starts setting up elsewhere, right? Akiyama just set up 4A78 to have both 2 and 6. But I think Deli had probably seen ahead to this when playing his starter. He saw he could counter set up A757 to have both 4 and 8. And now there's just a lot of squares that Deli has combo play in that Akiyama kind of needs to get rid of. The reason I don't have this game higher, because it's going to be soon very pretty, is because I think Akiyama's move is not really high resistance. When you have, the serious combo potential in 4 and 8, and it's kind of difficult for Akiyama to block squares that 7-2A8 could hit, right? He has one card he might be able to put in 8, but now Akiyama is also in danger of getting hit by 9955 and 9. He can currently hold against that by playing X Death in 2 and reply, but 9955 landing at some point in 9 is just very scary. I think there's a couple wins here, but Deli chooses by far the most elegant one, just setting up to have even more combo power, right? Now 9955 is great in 2 as well as 9, and A757 is great in 4 and 8. And so Akiyama kind of has to pick which of those do I block and which is most dangerous. My instinct is 9 is probably most dangerous here. Akiyama chooses to block 8, and I think his point is if 9 is taken, right, then 2 and 4 don't pair well, right? One of Deli's cards is good in 4 and 8, and one is good in 2 and 9. It seems natural to go in 9 here, but then you don't have a card that's good in both 2 and 4, right? A757 is dead in 2, and 9955 is not so good in 4. But Deli instead keeps the paired squares. 9955 is good in 2 and 9. You got rid of 1 and 4 and 8. I'll take the other and be ready to sweep on the last turn with 9955. And he does so, and I think a very nice win. I really like the move in 1. And I think in general, when you have a huge combo, the later in the game you can pull it off, the better, right? The more extra cards get flipped, the less time they have to recuperate their losses. And so when you have a huge threat somewhere, something you can really often do is just create more threats elsewhere such that they can't like plug all the holes in the ship at once. And I think going in 1 here was a really elegant way to do so. On to game number 2. This was an open trade game between Akiyama and Wavey. And I did not put in the moves, so we have to put in the moves now. Because I can normally just press the forward button. Wavey started in 9. Akiyama played in 7. It's not really the opening that's super exciting to me this game, so we're going to kind of skim past that. And the key is Akiyama played 8-5, A5, and 6. And there's a few ways to tie here. This is a balanced position. But after Wavey playing the incredibly natural move 6-5, A8, and 5, why is this in 3? Why is this so natural? Well, it's safe and it captures something, and it's hard for Akiyama to play in 5, right? Akiyama now has a huge right weakness. If he goes in 5 with 6-6-7, A, that is very vulnerable to combos. And if he goes in 5 taking the same, he has just set up a counter combo with Gipple. And so there's just this huge problem. And you could say, well, we have a plus wall. The plus wall doesn't flip anything extra. It's not actually a useful combo. So this looks very favorable to Wavey, but Akiyama had intentionally walked into this because he had planned, and this is not a move you look at early. You spend all your time looking at this, and if you realize this is bad, you don't like this idea. With A477 in 1. Really fantastic justification of the move in 6. And now everything works beautifully because essentially what's going to happen is if 4 is occupied, you can land 9, 5, 8, 7, and 5. But if 4 isn't occupied, they have to keep up 6, 7, 7, 9 to counter you going in 5. But as soon as they keep that up, you play 6, 6, 7A instead. So for instance, if they try to keep that open, we don't play 9, 5, 8, 7 there. We play 6, 6, 7A, and 6, 7, 7, 9 is dead against that. How did the game actually finish? Wavey took 4. And now Akiyama can play a plus in 2. You'll also notice this set up a plus here. And 6, 7, 7, 9 only has the lone flip back on the final turn. And Akiyama gets the win. Much, in a way, similar to the last game. Just a really nice and precise figuring out of combo potential. All right, our third game is Wavey versus Piggyman. This was from Battle of the Decks Round 3, one of the first tournaments in the return. We're showing multiple games of Wavey. I said this in the previous video. A great game takes 2 players. We're not going to be showing any games Wavey won, but a great game takes 2 players to make a great game, and these would not be great if Wavey hadn't played strongly interesting moves. Did my sleep thing just pop up for you? Yes, it did. Apologies for that. It's late. Okay. So this game I thought was neat because the finishing blow was kind of interesting, and it was also an unusual structure. So Piggy replies with a very natural move in 7. He has a recapture if needed in 4, and Wavey cannot attack it from 4 himself. But Wavey notices Piggy's only capture in 4 is with 7, 6, 4, 6, and so he sets up to counter that. Now if Piggy wants to go in 4, Wavey has a same in 5 in reply. But Piggy goes, you also have no threat in 4, so just like you, I'm going to go next to my starter because neither of us can ever attack in 4. This is a very rare formation. Most famous to me is I believe it happened between Turdz and Nightwish in the semifinals of Selfie. But a very rare formation, and you can see how it made logical sense here. Wavey goes in 9, and his point is, if Piggy takes it, he can simply, actually with either card, go in 3, and the point is Piggy has nothing to put anywhere else, and 4866 sweeps him. And I think if you use this way, you'll also notice Piggy just can't capture anything. So even though 8318 doesn't sweep, it's still just going to be a 5-5 tie. I guess there's one capture in the position, but that one gets captured back. But Piggy has a win here. And his problem is essentially that 4866 sweeps these middle cards. And so he gets rid of the middle squares. He plays 7, 6, 4, 7, and 5, a really beautiful finishing blow. And the point is twofold. One is it gets rid of these squares that are deadly. It's the only win in the position. And the other is it sets up 6, 4, 6, 8 to have the capture in 6 rather than 3, 6, 8, 6. And with the 6 facing out, that's enough to close out the win that can't be captured. Really nice ending, but also a fun opening structure. I'm going pretty quickly through these games because, again, it's late. I think this is a really neat one-on-one. All of these you could spend more time on, but this one I think an especially interesting one too. All right, game number 4. We have Midas versus Akiyama. Midas starts in 5. This game I think super cool, but there were so many ways to win it that it feels a little less special just because there were a lot of options. Akiyama goes in 6, which is already a difficult card for Midas to deal with, and Midas goes in 4. And there's just way too much combo potential now. The card in 4 combos through 5, potentially comboing in 6, and Akiyama has multiple plus walls in 7. He has a plus wall in 4. He has a plus wall in 2. there is just way too much latent combo potential. And if I click dump eval, you'll see there are a whole lot of moves that win here. And that's why I'm downgrading this a bit. But I think the move he chose is kind of beautiful. He plays 296A and 2, essentially cutting off the counterplay to the combo in one, right? This always there's potential for reply, but he's removing the retort. Even though he's cutting off a combo square of his own, he sees that combos through the card in 4 are going to be the most valuable, and because he has combos through 4, anything weak to 5 he will easily recapture. So he's just playing another side weak to the combo chain. Midas goes fully in, and he has a real point here. Because if Akiyama grabs the obvious combo here, Midas now can combo back, and he'd win. So Akiyama needs to do this precisely, but he had it under control. I believe there's only the one winning move here. One point is Midas has A837 as well, ready to combo back in 8. So if we do combo, we need to be ready to react to that move. And we also need to just not be swept by A837 on the bottom. So the tempting Celis in 7, I'm working it out as I go, I didn't check these games too deeply in advance, I think can be met by Quistis here. And A873 sweeps either of the cards in 8, either through a same or through a plus wall, and that's going to combo extra, so you can't actually block 8. Do you lose here? Yeah, you just lose. So you have to do it with exactly 766A, because now Quistis can be met by Celis blocking 8, and you don't walk into the combo. And if they go 8 immediately, you still have Vini to reply, and you win. How did the game end? Yeah, he went to 8, won, and the game ends here. Really nice win by Akiyama. If that move in 2 had been the only win, I would have ranked this as one of the very top games, one of my top favorites. By the way, if you disagree with my rankings, please let me know. I just love to talk about these games more. But this move in 2 seemed really neat to me, a really nice understanding of I have infinite combo potential through 4, and I should just make that combo as powerful as possible. And putting something in 2 weak to 5, but really high facing other squares, is going to do so much to extend that combo chain. And he controlled it really nicely and elegantly, and I love the move in 2, followed up by this move in 7. All right, next up we have a game of mine. This is the only game of mine I put here. It's actually not an incredibly, really only the first move of mine I think is all that interesting. But this is a very difficult position because I have very little power facing the action. And I think a tempting option is to play 3, 5, 8, 7, and 3, which is safe. But that's actually losing. I just lose far too much ability to threaten anything they play. And I was really proud of the move I found because it is a tying move, and I went on to win the game. But it is a non losing move against a very difficult starter to meet. Uh, I don't have good setups in 5. If I use 3, 5, 8, 7, I'm just in enormous trouble. There are a bunch of tying moves, but pretty much all of them, you check one move deeper and you're like, oh, I would have need to see another insanely hard to find move after this. So there's a bunch of ties, but it's all really, really just on the edge. And I found a clean way to do it, where in fact I don't need to be all that precise afterwards to hold the tie. And I think that's something that these games mostly won't celebrate that much, but is really important. Is sometimes you find a move that's good enough to tie, but you're still in agony every future move, and you have to find multiple great moves to save a game. And the odds of you doing that, decreases exponentially with each one you have to find. On the other hand, if you just find that really clean move on move 1, even from a bad hand, sometimes the rest of the game plays out smoothly. And these aren't the flashiest games, but they are some of the most important and most useful because we're never going to find every defensive sequence. But if we find the way where we don't have to find every defensive sequence, that really helps. And the key I identified here is my hand does have one huge advantage here. It has no play against their starter. It is very bad going down, but it dominates Akai's hand side to side. And so I played 6, 8, 3, 6, and 6, forcing the game into side to side action. And I don't play many far sides, but when I do, it is almost always through this kind of justification of I found an advantage, and it's the way to force that advantage. There is no other square I can go in that forces a side to side game. If I go in 5 and they go in 2, it's very much up down. If I go in 3, it's not really side to side, it could be anything. This is the way to force an up down game. And already after this move, I have a huge advantage. I think there's one tie, and it's not easy to find, and end up closing out the win. The rest of the game, not that important. And probably there are other games that are just as good at showing this example, but I know my game's better than others. I wanted to include one of mine, and this was the game I was proudest of from 2021, um, for finding a move that was just really difficult with a tough random, and a move that is not my instincts. Incidentally, I'm going to include no games from Nephilim here. There were definitely some good games played in Nephilim, but none that were very flashy. It was a very kind of staid tournament in the style of play throughout, and all the games are from other events. Okay, next up we have Midas versus Nimloth. This is just a fun one because Nimloth comes back, plays 3 games. This was the first of the 3. Takes on a top tier modern player in Midas and absolutely wipes the floor with him. Midas plays a weak corner. You'll notice he has a lot of cards for the corner 7. I'm not saying Midas had a great hand here. Nimloth sets up the adjacent corner, setting up his 7-8-9-5 beautifully to go in 2 or 4, right? Very cleanly recapturing and powerfully. Midas continues using his cards, continues playing weak outfacing numbers, or at least easy ones for him to recapture, right? He has multiple ways to capture in 6, he has multiple ways to capture in 8. Very typical thing to do with first turn of create weak cards because you have last turn that will be easy for you to sweep. What's funny here is Nimloth had 2 winning moves, and he played one and then said, this was the other move I was considering, and they were the 2 wins. He was immediately drawn to only the 2 winning moves, but I think he played the more fun one. He played 5-5-A9 in 4, the other one was 5-5-A9 in 2, also winning. But this specifically says you can't really fight this card very well, and if you go in 2, your only capture is 5-7-7-A, and I have set up a same in 5 to reply. You could also play 6A7-6 and 8, but that at the very least gives me 6A7-6 and 7 capturing Zidane, but at the very least that gives me Cloud in 8, which looks very strong, and there might be something better there. There might be something cool in 5. I don't really remember. It's been a long time since I looked at this one. Midas ends up going in 5, trying to create counterplay with 5-7-7-A and 8, but now Nimloth doesn't need the square 7-8-9-5 for 5, so he can happily use it in 2, a move he set up with his first turn to have that plus in 2. Midas goes kind of tricky here because 6A7-6 is set up in multiple squares, and it can combo through Zidane to reflip things, but Nimloth doesn't flip 5, he just flips 9, and he wins 6-4. Maybe I could have ranked this one a little lower, but I thought it was a really pretty adjacent corner. The move in 4, it's a pretty unusual move in the 3 corners. It's something you definitely got to check, but it's fairly unusual. And that he so quickly identified the 2 winning moves as the 2 key moves in the position that this was Nimloth's first game in absolute ages was just so impressive and so cool to see. And whether or not this was, the best game of 2021 or anything, it was certainly one of the most fun ones and one of the most kind of storied feeling moments of 2021 and the return. All right, we got Turdz versus Tezuka in the Battle of the Decks round 1, and Turdz plays a weak corner, and Tezuka attacks it really, really well. He notes Turdz has played a weak corner, something where you're going, I don't see a way to apply immediate pressure, but at least I'll play something I have an easy time recapturing. As I just said, first turn has last turn. It's nice to have stuff with low value facing out. And Tezuka really precisely notices you actually only have 2 ways to recapture from 4, and both of them have a 6 facing towards 5. So Turdz now just loses on the spot if he plays 4 due to that same in 5, right? Due to 6-1-2-6 landing in 5. And Turdz is under a ton of pressure here. And so what's really cool about this game is Tezuka plays a great response to Turdz' starter, and Turdz has to find a great move to not lose, and he's going to go on to win this game, and he's going to win it against Tezuka making either this move, which was excellent, or just very natural, obviously good moves, and somehow Turdz is going to pull out the win against just excellent play, right? Like you can't look at what Tezuka does this game and goes, "Man, you played horrible." Because Tezuka goes, "Okay, I'm going to take the free square in 9. You don't even have a combo in 5." Incidentally, Turdz' move, one of the very few that didn't lose. Notice Turdz doesn't even have a recapture from 3. This looks great for Tezuka. He plays in 9 with a card that has little value later, and Turdz is just intending the double capture in 5, but he has left himself with 2 perfect sweepers for this endgame. And especially the 1676 playing off that 7 and that 5 up completely dominates the top row. Something Turdz mentions with Seto a lot is he thinks Seto has a. I'm spelling out private messages from Turdz, but he thinks Seto has a really good sense for what's going to sweep. And I think this is a game where Turdz does a spectacular job of that, because this does not look like it should be a winning position for Turdz, and it just is. He's just winning here. This looks to me like a game where Tezuka has played fantastically and Turdz is trying to hope his sweepers are good enough to hold, but they more than hold. And after 4663 and 1, 1676 just shows how powerful it can be and gets the win, even after that plus wall. So this actually, it's not spectacular in the sense that the moves were in all that strange squares. 7, 8, 6 is not that unusual a move order. 9 is the most common move after that. 5 is the most common move after that. But normally 5 comes with some combo potential, and it didn't here. Normally 6 comes with ways to recapture and combo threats, and it didn't really have them there. And normally when this is a winning idea, it's because the opponent, uses cards that like they shouldn't be using. Like they get rid of something like this in 9, or something that's going to have play later. But everything Tezuka did looked really smooth. Maybe you got to keep 6257 for 3. Like maybe 6126 here, I would guess ties. Yeah, it does tie. But like, it's really hard to not say Tezuka played just an extremely solid, reasonable game here, and somehow loses to Turdz' just wonderful conception of leaving these sweepers for the endgame. All right, we're into my top 5 games. That was my 6th place, and we have Delial versus Turdz. Delial starts with a very strong corner, and already Turdz' hand is a difficult spot, and this one Turdz will not be turning around. But Turdz plays in 5, and this is a move a little akin to something Akiyama's really good at, is a play in 5 that only sets up one of the 2 squares. He has 6, but he doesn't have 8. However, if Deli himself can't play 6, then Turdz only needs 6, right? We only need 1 square if the opponent can't block it. The reason we need to set up in both squares is because when we only set up in one, they will block that one and we have nothing in the other. But Deli really has nothing good to put in 6, and Turdz is really taking advantage nicely of how repetitive Deli's hand is facing up. On the other hand, Deli has tricks of his own, and Deli goes in 7. And this is going to turn out to be a really combo-oriented move, but without it obviously being so. And there's a bunch of lines that kind of work similarly to the game, but like the natural thing to do for Turdz is to go in 8, and not with like 7, 8, 4A where you flip too much stuff and get comboed back, right? 8, 6, 7, 8, and 6 will really hurt there. But something else there. But some of those moves lose too. Turdz ends up going in 4, and Deli just has this wonderful setup of 8A, 5, 6, and 3, which he was, I think, considering doing the move before as well, but wanted to get squares like 4 and 8 occupied, and he thought his move in 7 would get at least one of those occupied, and then he can land this card in 3, and now 8, 6, 7, 8 is just dominant everywhere, right? It has this huge plus in 2, it has this huge plus in 6, it has a less huge but still relevant plus in 8. Zell also has the plus in 8, and a better plus in 8 potentially. Turdz blocks 8 and locks in potentially a card. Turdz has A5, 7, 6 ready to combo in either of those top 2 squares. So if Deli's too quick to pull the trigger on his combos, if he plays 8-6-7-8 in 2 or 8-6-7-8 in 6, A5-7-6 in 1 or 2 is going to land as the response and is going to win the game. Instead, Deli has to go 8-6-7-8 his 2 and 6, therefore I block 1. Now, sometimes this doesn't work because blocking 1 flips 4, and that breaks off your combo chain. 5 no longer goes through 4 to flip squares like 7 and 8 as well. The problem is, Turdz, if he goes A5-7-6 in 2, that combos, and he gets comboed back real hard. And if he goes 7-8-4A in 2, that's susceptible to combos through 5. So he actually can't go in 2 without walking into more combos. And if he goes in 6, because he had to give up his card 9-5-9-5 that could same in 6, he doesn't capture 9, and Deli just captures back enough cards to take a 6-4 lead. He does end up going in 6, and Deli gets the 6-4 win. I really liked this setup of 7 with the idea of 3, and just giving this 8-6-7-8 just huge play all over the board. This does feel like it was the wrong square for Turdz to block, right? In a lot of these exciting, fun, flashy games, there's this whole like finding ways to maximize your combo potential. And Turdz' move in 4 doesn't block one of the squares where Deli has combo potential, and so ends up feeling like a clear mistake here, and it was a mistake. But it also gave like A5-7-6 a ton of combo potential in reply to the combo chains. There's a lot of potential for compensation here. It just didn't happen to work out in this one. All right, in 4th place, again, this is by my account. You may differ. If you do, that's great. Let me know what you think. We have Sergio versus Akiyama, and I'm going to skip through the opening a bit to reach this position where there's the question of how should Akiyama attack that card in 7? And notice that Sergio can combo back in 9 if wanted. But the thing is, if Akiyama wants to take it, anything he takes with in 4 is weak to 2-8-5-8 and 1. And so he just picks this like fascinating option of 7-4-8-4, walking into 2-8-5-8 and 1. But sort of like the previous game we saw of Akiyama's where he played Beatrix in 2, and it was weak to 5, and thus he had combo potential. He has combo potential through 5 and 6, now flipping everything. But it doesn't work, right? He can't take this move because 8-1, 8-3, and 9 is just a devastating reply. So what does he do? He sets up a second combo square, right? He has one threat. He needs to create a second threat. But the other thing to note is 8-1, 8-3, and 9 hits fairly hard, but not that hard, right? It will take the card in 6, it will take 8, and it will combo through 8 to take 7. So it will take 3 cards, and it is a 4th card. However, after Akiyama's move, only 4 cards isn't good enough for Sergio. If he goes here immediately, or goes, 9 or what immediately, Akiyama has combos now. He has a combo in 2 with 2-8-7-7. Akiyama has these 2 combo squares and can hit with either of them. And 8-1, 8-3, now, whatever he played has to be susceptible to combos, because the combo goes through 5 to 6 to 1 to 2. He can't play safely in 2. So now Akiyama plays this combo a move later, it flips an extra card, and suddenly 8-1, 8-3 doesn't flip enough in reply. And I thought just going in 4 here, understanding I can walk into this combo to a safe card, right? 2-8-5-8 and 1 is, sort of safe, sort of not, because the combos hit it, but sort of safe because it itself can't be directly captured. But I can walk into this because as long as 5 is my opponent's, I control the combos. And I think he did a really nice job of doing that in this game by then just setting up the most combo potential he could through 5. On his final turn, he doesn't take the combo till his last turn. He holds off, right, when there is the least chance to come back from the damage. And despite Sergio having a great, you can't imagine a better final card for Sergio, I guess, except one that would plus the card 8-3-4-5. But it's like almost the perfect card for him, and it's still not enough to to undo the damage. All right. That was 5th place. Now we're on 4th place. No, that was 4th. Okay, now we're on 3rd place. This is Turdz versus Villalva. This game, you could have higher, you could have lower. I have it here because I genuinely just don't understand it. I didn't spend long looking at it, but there is one winning move for Turdz here. He makes it. I think this would be a really difficult move to play. I don't look at this position and have it as anywhere near what I intuit. So, like, definitely pause the video and just look at this position for a little and pick a move for blue. There is 1 minute winning move. Turdz played it. If you think this move is great but not that great, you might have this game ranked a lot lower. If you think this move is just unfindably perfect, you might say this is the best game of 2021. I don't know where to put it. I'd have to put in a bunch of time to figure out why this move makes sense. All these other games, I can kind of go, yes, this clicks and that clicks. This one, I don't know why it wins, but it is the only winning move in the position. My basic way of saying it, so you should pause now, I'm going to get into why. My basic way of saying it is that Turdz' big advantage in this position is he is dominant going to the right. His right numbers absolutely sweep Villalva's numbers facing left, and he needs to make the game as right-facing as possible. And so, in my game against Kai, they started in 7, and I played in 6 because I needed the game to be side to side. So if you're thinking here, I need the game to be right-facing, what is the square that makes it most right-facing, even if it's an unusual square? The answer to that is 3. The answer to that's 3. Okay, if we're going to go 3, which card would we use to keep our dominant sweepers of anything they have facing out to the right? Well, we're going to want to keep 5, 8, 7, 8. That controls the A's really well. 7, 7, A3 also controls A's and has plus wall potential against 5, and has same wall and 8 potential. We're somewhere between A8, 5, 6 and 6A8, 3. Is there an obvious choice between those two? Six A8 3 has a bit more power to the right, but if you look at the cards it's actually needing to take, it's not clear that's all relevant. 6A8 3 does set up a plus in 6. It is 6A8 3, I guess that makes a bit more sense, but this seems like just an incredibly hard, and it is the only winning move in the position, move to find. Villalva blocks 6, and Turdz simply takes 8. He also has a plus in 8. Not super important, except that it's actually weirdly hard for Villalva to take 5 back. Villalva takes this, there's nothing else. Turdz takes, and his 7-7-A3 weirdly just sweeps to the right, and the game is nicely decided by overpowering things to the right. So this game just seems great to me because I would not play the move in 3. All these other moves I can basically imagine doing, not saying I would in any given game, I mostly wouldn't, but they all sort of, I think I'd get there, and I think I think I could get there. Some days I would, some days I wouldn't, some days I'd find a different appealing move. This is just something else. I have no way to really consider it. It's crazy find. All right. Now our final 2 games. In 2nd place, we have Villalva versus Piggyman. And what I love this game, I've talked about this game before, is Villalva has built his hand. This is I forget what event this was, but it's a hand game. He has built his hand to have various setups with this 5-4-6-1 landing in 5. And they are extremely hidden looking at the hand, right? Sure, 7-1-8-6 maybe can play off the 1, but there's no 7s facing down or 8s facing up. He's not setting up sames at all, but he's going to set up this incredible amount of combo potential. And he starts with 7-1-8-6 and 1. And this is going to be much like a lot of the other games, a game where the key is, does 5 ever flip? And if it does, I'm going to set up crazy combo potential. And the thing is, right now, he only has a plus wall and 8. This looks like so little combo potential, and it's about to be off the charts. Piggy plays 1, 7, 8, 5, and 3. Very natural move. When Piggy played in 2, he was very clearly going, okay, 2 looks like a nice move. 1785 can recapture from both 1 or 3. He has nice synergy with his hand. It is safe in 1 or 3. And when Villalva goes in 1, perfect time to play 3, lock in my card in 2. Extremely logical move. And then Villalva hits him with 5-2, 5-2, and 9. And suddenly, Villalva's hand is just going off. Because if Piggyman plays either 8-7-3-6 or 6-9-2-7 and 6, Villalva's going to play 6-9-5-5 and 7. And 7-8-3-4 will have combos in both 4 and 8, and you flipped 5, so everything's going to flip. You cannot flip 5. So you might be thinking, of course, Piggy plays 7-1-7-4 and 6 and he's fine. He isn't. That loses too to 6-9-5-5 and 7 because you have no move there that doesn't flip 5. You cannot avoid flipping 5 here. And so as soon as you do anything, Villalva's going to land 6-9-5-5 and 7, and suddenly he has this insane combo out of nowhere, and you just lose the game. And it is incredible that 7-1-7-4 and 6 is just a losing move here. You have like 3 cards locked in the edge of the board, but you can't not flip 5, and they're all going to go the other way. But Piggy sees all this. Piggy goes, okay, I have to block 7. The only thing I can do is block 7. And I have to keep 7-1-7-4 alive in my hand because I need to have something I can play either in 4 or 6 that doesn't flip 5. So he blocks 8-7-3-6 and 7. This is the only tying move. Note 6-9-2-7 and 7 would help set up 7-8-3-4 to sweep in 4. Because 6 is up is what Villalva's trying to create. Villalva goes 4, Piggy blocks 6 without flipping 5, and Piggy gets out of this with a tie. This conception of Villalva's going in 1, obliging 3, and then going in 9, and he still has barely set up anything. He set up a plus in 6, and he kind of has a plus wall in 8. Instead of going immediately for the huge combo setter 6-9-5-5 and 7, he has played all around it because as long as 4 and 8 are left open, he's gonna land 7 at some point. He's just inducing moves elsewhere. But Piggy sees it and defends beautifully. This is one of the best played games by both sides, and it would be my favorite game if it wasn't that 6-9-5-5 and 7 first was actually cleanly winning. And if you want to figure that out, you can do it on your own. But 5-2, 5-2, and 9 is going to land as kind of the follow-up. It works very similarly to the previous line, and this one happens to work. Piggy should probably block 9, right? That seems like the only thing to try. But with 7 already set up, he can go 6, and 7-8-3-4 has both 4 and 8. So there was a missed win here, but this is an incredible conception either way. This is my second favorite game of 2021. When I put these games together, I kind of had a clear top 2, and then that last Turdz game is a wild card of like, I don't know how much I love this, but something crazy happened with Turdz's move in 3. But this just beautiful conception, and just we've seen so many games here where having the other person have to flip 5 or have control of 5 gives you crazy combo potential. And I think this is the peak of those games, the epitome of that, of just if Piggy is forced to flip 5 here, Villalva wins. And Villalva just keeps setting it up to do that, and Piggy defends so well, and a great game from both sides, even if there was a missed win. Just spectacular idea. And like, if you look at this and you look at this position, that Villalva is winning here is wild to me. Piggy's move in 2 and his follow-up in 3 seems so natural and so good that the question should obviously be, can Villalva tie? Not, can Villalva find the win, right? Great game. Wonderful play by both players here. Really love this one. Maybe the most interesting overall game, but it was not my pick because this game, despite not being played nearly as well, this was not a great game for RandomHero. Had just something I've never seen before. And so Random Hero starts in 3, and the problem is Deli already has 6 against this, and he can actually take it immediately, but he just sets up further against it. He goes, I have 6 already, I'm just going to go 1. That sets myself up for 2, and if you go 2, well, I can always go 6, right? You can't go 2 because I combo through 6. Random Hero does go 2, and the obvious thing to do is play 8, 6, 5, 3, and 6. But Random Hero has 5, 3, 8, 6, and 5 in reply. Your combo chain is not actually that deadly. It does not, in fact, win. So, what do you do when you have a huge combo threat somewhere, but it doesn't win? You have to create a second threat. You have to create something such that if they block that first threat, you win somewhere else. Because the closer we get to the end of the game, the more devastating that combo chain is. This video is all about lengthy combo chains. It's all about setting up more combos. Those are the flashiest and most fun games. They're not the games you get to play every day, but they're a hell of a lot of fun when you do get them. So how do you set up combos in another square here? There is one winning move in this position, and if you told me there are cards in 1, 2, and 3, you don't tell me what the cards are, and you say, what's the most likely square for there to be a win? I would say 4 or 6, right? You say, what's the second most likely? I would say 5, right? Maybe the other of 4 or 6, whatever. 4, 6, 5. 3 most likely squares. What about the last 3? Well, you see moves in 7 and 9 a lot more than you see in 8, and 8 tends to be a weird desperation losing move, but 8 with exactly 8, 1, 8, 3, setting up 2 cards to have pluses in 5, is the only winning move here. And now if Random Hero blocks 6, Deli lands 8, 6, 5, 3, and 5, and he wins. Notice 7, 7, 4, 4 is really good in those endgames, because it can take back 1, 8, 8, 1, 8, 3 from both 7 or 9. Just an incredible move. I mean, you so rarely see structures with cards in 1, 2, 3, and 8, and 1, 2, 3, and someone play 8, and almost every time it is this desperate hope for a tie. And here it's not a desperate hope for a tie. It's this completely in control move that responds exactly to the needs of the position to play the only win in the position. And like, yes, it is easier to play moves when your opponent is walking into huge combo potential, but just taking the combo wasn't good enough here. And this was the most kind of obscure and strange square to set up that final combo potential. Random Hero captures, and Deli just captures back. 7744 is good at capturing back. He still has both his combo squares, and he does get to combo in 6 in the end and pull out the 6-4 win. So those are my favorite 12 games from 2021. Again, I didn't take any from Nephilim, so they weren't necessarily like the most. I wasn't valuing games by like, this happened with the highest stakes, and maybe I should have. But I was really looking for these are kind of fun games where people played really, really well in complex positions with creative ideas you don't see every day. Those are the kind of games I was looking for. And I came on these 12, and I'm really curious if you think I got the order basically right. What did I underrate? What did I overrate? How awesome are some of these moves? Which moves are you like, yeah, I could have played that? And others which you're like, nope, not in a million years. All right. Cheers.